Just like that, another year of mixed martial arts betting begins. 2022, kicking things off with Kalvin, Kattar, and Giga Chikadze, two excellent strikers. Stylistically, this has all the makings to be a very entertaining fight. I'm very excited for this card. There are some intriguing matchups throughout the card, but most importantly, we haven't seen any UFC action in weeks. So we're all just very eager to see two fighters hop in that cage and throw down. I don't think we even care so much about having the biggest of names throughout this card. We're just excited to have that action taking place. At least that's how I feel. I'm sure a lot of you guys agree. We got an excellent show lined up for you guys today. We're going to be touching on a few things from the past, and then we're going to be jumping right into the full card predictions for the upcoming event. I want to thank everybody for tuning in once again to kick things off here for the new year. Hope all your holidays were excellent. And with no further ado, you guys know what time it is. Hit that music.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? We are back on the tube, breaking down fights. I've been eagerly waiting to be back in front of the mic over here, talking some UFC action. It's definitely been a long time. That's the longest break we've had between fights in some time. You guys know I talk about it often nowadays. If there's no fight card for 1 weekend, that's a pretty big break, but we had multiple weeks without fights. And now we're back this upcoming Saturday. We have an excellent main event fight. Kalvin, Kattar taking on Giga Chikadze. If you guys could, please like this video right now. Hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. Catch me on all the social media platforms. We have a major year lined up for 2022. A lot of big things on the horizon. Can't wait to show you guys what's going to be going down this upcoming year. A couple things to brush upon real quick before we get into the full card breakdown. I was not able to do a recap of the last card of the year. I'm just very, very briefly going to let you guys know that it was another profitable night, plus 5.24 units on the card. And you guys can see my 4 plays right here. We hit Jordan Levet, 3.5 unit play at -115. Gerald Mearshart. Initially, I did have him in a parlay. The other fight was scratched, but we just kept it with the 5.5 unit -220 play. That was a crazy fight there. He came back at the end. Matej Gamrot comes through 5 unit play, -185. Grabbed that line nice and early. And then the one loss was the Chris Dawkins 3 unit play. So I definitely wanted to chirp about that a little bit because you guys know I always get excited when we have another profitable event. Remember now, go catch me on Instagram, MMA Fortune Teller _. I got a bunch of funny pictures, memes, all that crap. You see Tyron Woodley fried up like a piece of bacon after Paul put him out. That was a crazy fight, huh? And, you know, I really have been stepping up my Instagram activity. I'm posting multiple posts a day, all types of breaking news and whatnot. That's the best way to keep up with me as far as what my bets were and to track what I got going on over there. And also, very importantly, I did an entire video breaking down last year's results, 2021's betting results, plus 72.94 units. An excellent year, 11.5 ROI. That's excellent. It's amazing. 60.7 win ratio. That's kind of irrelevant for those of you guys that know how sports betting goes. Doesn't really matter what your win ratio is because depending what kind of betting lines you're going after. But please do go catch me on Instagram. Catch me on Twitter as well, the MMA Teller. So the fight card is taking place over in the Apex Center over in Vegas. The centerpiece of the card, without a doubt, the main event. Other than that, though, we got Brandon Royval throwing down. Brandon Royval is a guy you're always excited to watch perform. A very, very entertaining and an aggressive fighter, the guy that's constantly going for the kill. I'm excited to see him perform there in the main card against Rogério Bontorin, a guy that's no joke. On this card, we got a lot of guys that are trying to make a name for themselves in the game right now. There's 3 fighters in particular that are coming over from Dana White's Contender Series that made a big splash on the show and that are looking to keep that momentum going. Joanderson, Brito, the guy carries some heavy power. He has some killer instinct as well. He really has some potential. Joseph Holmes didn't get the contract on the show, but goes out, gets another victory, and now gets an opportunity here against Jamie Pickett. How about Borshchev, the guy fighting out of Team Alpha Male? I think his nickname is something in regards to Santa Claus. And Viacheslav Borshchev is a guy that is a nasty kickboxer and had an amazing performance on Dana White's Contender Series. And now he takes on Dakota Bush. And there's some other intriguing fights too. Saidyokub, Kakhramonov, a guy that took his UFC debut on 4 days' notice. He got that finish there in the 3rd round against a very tough Trevin Giles. He's squaring off against Brian Kelleher, and you guys know how I feel about Kelleher, so I'm always excited to watch somebody lay the smackdown on Brian Kelleher. And then kicking things off, we got Vanessa Demopoulos taking on Silvana Gomez Juarez. A fight taking place in the strawweight division. Just to keep you up to beat with Vanessa Demopoulos, if you guys aren't familiar, former LFA champion. She's only won 1 of her last 3 fights, but if you take a deeper look into those fights, she loses her contender, Dana White's Contender Series opportunity against Corey McKenna. Corey McKenna, she's no joke. She's an extremely young fighter, but she's very talented, and she's been training MMA since she was basically a baby. That's a girl you definitely want to keep an eye on. She's been traveling the globe, training at all types of facilities. She's no joke. Then she loses to Lupita Garinez. She loses her belt there. You guys all know Lupita is no joke as well, a very talented fighter. She has proven that. So you take those 2 losses with a grain of salt. Vanessa goes back. She bounces back with the victory over Cynthia Arceo. And then she loses to JJ Aldrich in her UFC debut. And not everybody is as high on JJ as I am. I think JJ has some of the best boxing in the division. I think she's very cerebral on the feet. And I really... I have her high in my ranks. So those 3 losses that Vanessa took, you have to understand that they are against high caliber opponents, in my opinion. And I do believe Silvana Gomez Juarez is a little bit of a step down in competition, which Vanessa does deserve. Also worth noting, Vanessa has shown that she's an absolute warrior. If you run back the tape on the Lupita Garinez fight, they were absolutely going to war. Blood was everywhere. They were sitting in the pocket trading. Vanessa Demopoulos is without a doubt a true Spartan, fighting with Greek heritage. But she's also a girl that has some tricky jiu-jitsu. She's extremely flexible. Sometimes she's a little bit too comfortable performing on her back. It sounded pretty good, right? Especially with the look, huh? She's a little too willing to perform on her back. And what I mean by that is, she's willing to pull guard on you, and she believes she can get something done off the back. Sometimes she could pull her legs completely over her head. She has a crazy rubber guard, and it definitely has worked for her at times. But when you get to the upper echelon of MMA, a lot of these fighters really know how to defend a lot of those submission attempts and whatnot. And if you're on your back, for the most part, you're not winning fights there. So that is a little bit of a weakness in her game. Her striking too, she's tough and whatnot, but her striking defense is not really there. She eats a lot of shots. Her head movement is not really on the level. It's a little bit below par, in my opinion. But she does have a lot of good stuff going for her, and I think this is an excellent opportunity. We talked about her flexibility. Here you go. Flicking the leg over her head like it's nothing. But just that flexibility is not going to be enough to hang in the division. She's going to have to show us a little bit more in this fight. Now, her opponent, coming off a loss in her UFC debut, and it was against a common opponent, right? We just were briefly talking about Lupita Garinez. Lupita was Silvana's UFC debut, so they have a common opponent there. And Vanessa Demopoulos, without a doubt, performed at a much higher level in that fight. Where Silvana was submitted there. She was dominated. She was taken down at ease. She eventually got caught in that submission there. Now Silvana, 37 years old. She's already up there in age. She's a tough chick. Maybe has a little bit of power in her hands at times. When you're breaking down tape on her, you see a little bit of pop in her punches. Overall, though, I'm not really too intrigued from what I've seen. You run through her resume, not a lot of notable names. In fact, really one of the only victories I saw that it was even notable, I believe, was Vanessa Mello, a girl that is 1-4 in the UFC, I believe. I got to go with Vanessa Demopoulos here. I think the UFC is trying to give her somewhat of an opportunity as far as compared to the competition that she's been facing over the last couple years. Vanessa will be at a 1-inch height disadvantage, a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Nothing really going on there. Vanessa Demopoulos, I know she really gets it in as far as her training. I know she bounces around. It says Fight Ready MMA, but I know that she's also she's put in a lot of work at some major camps. And I'm trying to remember, there was one. I know she was put in some work at a camp a couple of years ago, training with Johnny Walker and a couple of those top level UFC fighters. Seems that she has been bouncing around though. And again, a girl that does she really does have some tricky jiu-jitsu. I would not be surprised to see her pull off a submission. Here's the catch though. Demopoulos is wrestling is not the best. Her takedowns aren't the best. She's not too good at getting the fight down to the mat, even though she could do some work off the ground or on the ground. If she's able to get a takedown early, I could definitely see her pulling off a submission. And I think that would really work to her advantage if she can get the fight down to the mat nice and early while they're dry, before they start getting slippery and sweaty and whatnot. But even then, I could still see her pulling off a late round sub. And I'm going to side with Vanessa Demopoulos here. We take a look at the betting line. As of right now, Vanessa Demopoulos right around a -130. A little bit of action coming in on her. She opened up right around a -105. Excuse me, guys. I got to get my voice down here. It's been a while since I've been on the mic chirping like this. But yeah, I'm going to be taking Vanessa Demopoulos to win this fight. And as far as the betting line goes, it looks like people want to see a little bit more from Vanessa. You know, she does have some holes in her game, as I briefly talked about. But I do think that she's the better fighter here. I will take Vanessa. My boy, Brian Kelleher, stepping back in the octagon. He's got a tough opponent in front of him. Saidyokub, Kakhramonov. Like I said, a guy that made his UFC debut in 4 days' notice against a very tough Trevin Giles and was able to get a third-round submission. Went through some early adversity in that fight. I mean, it really was a grueling fight. And I kind of liked how it played out because we saw the heart and the cardio that Kakhramonov has. I would say, the first round wasn't really going his way necessarily, but he hung tough in there. A lot of people were questioning with him taking that fight on short notice how he was going to look in the later rounds, but he actually looked to be the fresher fighter. So this guy really, really can push the pace. He can grapple. He can strike. He's a very well-rounded fighter. We've seen him locked in there with a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov. You guys know Umar is an absolute stud, a top prospect, a 5-star prospect, blue chip prospect, whatever you want to call him. The guy's an excellent fighter. And Kakhramonov went to a decision with him over in PFL. They were both only 22 years old at the time. So you want to talk about great experience. Kelleher is a guy that has power in his hands. This is a guy that's really not that fluid on the feet. I mean, he has a nice overhand. We've seen him knock out guys like Hunter Azure. He has a very, very powerful guillotine, that's for sure. You stick your head in there, you can definitely be getting subbed. But Kelleher has really been kind of bullying around some below level fighters, in my opinion. Domingo Pilarte, he was able to really out wrestle him there. Ray Rodriguez, Hunter Azure. I mean, these are guys that are really not going to be hanging around in the UFC. And then his losses, taking losses to Ricky Simone and Cody Stamann. Two talented guys. Listen, as much as I'm not a fan of Kelleher's, which I'm not going to go over again, a lot of you guys know the background story. Kelleher is a tough guy. There's no question about that. I think that he's going to have his plate full, though, this upcoming Saturday. I really believe that this newcomer, this UFC up-and-comer, is a tough dude. The Uzbekistani, I guess you would call him. He's fighting out of, he's American, I believe, but he's from Uzbekistan descent. Let me see if I can, Uzbekistani, I believe you would say. He's a very tough dude. Like I said, out of his 2 losses, one to Umar Nurmagomedov and then the other one to Pipe Vargas. He got caught with the flying knee there. But again, now on the feet, Saidyokub is definitely competent. He keeps his hands up nice and tight. He was able to hang in there with Trevin Giles in the feet for almost an entire 3-round fight, right? Even before getting that finish. Trevin Giles is a guy that has grenades in his hands. Trevin Giles is a guy that has gone in there and knocked out multiple guys, and not just knocked out multiple guys, but knocked out very, very talented fighters. Name not coming to me right now, but you guys know the fight I'm talking about, where he ended up getting that late round knockout after being controlled and dominated that entire fight, and then he just touched that Dagestani guy. Name slipping my mind right now, but a very, very promising guy in the division. Anyways, Trevin Giles is no joke. I mean, I don't even need to waste my time going through that. But so, I mean, he's battle tested. Saidyokub is battle tested. I like his striking defense. He keeps the hands up, so he should be able to avoid that power shot from Kelleher. He's definitely well-rounded on the mat as well. I think he can avoid that guillotine. I mean, the guillotine, it's easier for me just to sit here and say that, but I mean, because if you're trapped in a guillotine, man, and you're fully controlled there, obviously it's not a place you want to be. But the guillotine is a little bit more of an elementary submission. I think that Saidyokub should be able to avoid that position there and should be the more well-rounded fighter overall. Another thing that I like too is that Saidyokub will be having a height advantage here and a reach advantage, with a nice 5-inch reach advantage. So he should be able to pump the jab. We've seen Kelleher outpointed on the feet. Cody Stamann was able to do that. Ricky Simon was able to do what he wanted in that fight as well. I think that Saidyokub, Kakhramonov should be able to handle business on the feet as well. I like him really anywhere this fight goes. I think that Kelleher's stock is a little high right now after dominating Pilarte in the map, but I mean, I think Saidyokub would absolutely destroy Pilarte in my opinion, and he would get the finish there. Kelleher couldn't even do that. So we take a look at the live line, and right now we have Saidyokub, Kakhramonov right around a -150 up to the -170 type range, -168. So a slight favorite there. So people also respecting Kelleher. I'm going to roll with Saidyokub. I think you guys know the deal with that, man. Not a Kelleher fan. Hoping Kelleher gets finished here. Slava Claus makes his UFC debut against Dakota Harry Bush. Two excellent nicknames here, right? We got Slava Claus and Harry Bush. Viacheslav Borshchev, if you're not familiar with him, made a big statement on Dana White's Contender Series just about 3 months ago against Chris Duncan, the Scottish fighter that's actually an ex-Bellator fighter, a very promising fighter. I believe he was undefeated at the time, and I do believe that Duncan was actually the slight favorite going into that fight, with action coming in on Borshchev as the fight was starting to take place. Borshchev is a phenomenal striker. He has that kickboxing experience and then has now been showing over in the MMA game that is translating perfectly. The left hook that he hit Duncan with was absolutely lights out. And, working over at Team Alpha Male, you gotta believe that his wrestling is going to quickly catch up to his striking, and he's going to be a very, very well-rounded and dangerous fighter. This guy's a cool guy. If you reach out to him on IG, I don't know about now, but back then he was nice enough to reach out. Really cool dude. Shot me a couple messages back, and I was just praising him on his performance. I like what this guy brings to the table. And his opponent, Dakota Bush, gotta like that he's putting in work over at Glory and MMA Fitness. I know he's been over there for a couple years now, so you could definitely expect to see some growth in his game. But overall, haven't been too impressed from what I've seen from Dakota Bush as of the last couple years. Really, overall, I mean, he's had a couple big performances, but against lower level names. Loses to Austin Hubbard in his last fight, and that was a fight where he actually looked very, very gassed in the later rounds too. So that's an alarming thing when you're breaking down tape on him and you see how heavy he was breathing in those later rounds. That's something that you got to keep an eye on. It's really tough to have money backing a guy that doesn't have a good gas tank. It's a very frustrating thing to do. On the feet, Dakota Bush, he's flicking the leg kicks and the body kicks. He's kind of light on his feet. He's been trying to work his striking in a little bit of a different way. At least it seems on tape, trying some new things out. He was trying to be light on his feet against Hubbard, but Hubbard was walking him down and eventually broke him there. And, in this fight, Borshchev, in my opinion, is going to have a substantial striking advantage here. I really expect Borshchev to put it on him on the feet. Borshchev looks to come in phenomenal shape every time. And again, at Team Alpha Male, they do not play around. I mean, they really push the envelope over there. So I expect nothing but big things from Borshchev. I expect him to be in phenomenal shape, and I expect him to be putting it on Dakota Bush here. I like Slava Claus in his UFC debut, and we'll see if he can really make a big statement here in his UFC debut, just like he did on Dana White's Contender Series, and can keep that momentum coming. An excellent dancer as well. So do expect, if he gets a big time knockout, expect him to be breaking it down in the octagon. Let's see if I can find something here. I thought I saw a little something. You can see what he's talking about over here. It's kind of interesting. That's Max Griffin, huh? And he's about the same size, if not bigger than Max Griffin, which I was a little surprised to see that. Griffin's a big dude. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the video, but just keep an eye on, if he gets a knockout, I'm telling you guys, man, he's got some breakdance moves, and he will be busting them out in the octagon. Similarly to what he did when he got his contract over on the Dana White's Contender Series episode. So it will be a fun show to watch. I like Slava Claus here. We'll take a look at the live line. Slava Claus right now, right around a -180, creeping up to that -200 range of a favorite. And actually starting off on BetMGM at a -225. So actually a little bit of action coming in on Dakota Bush, former LFA fighter, a guy that's looking to get things going in the octagon. We'll see what he could do. I like Borshchev to win the fight. TJ Brown taking on Gabriel Benítez. Gabriel Benítez has only won one of his last 4 fights, and I don't know if that really sums him up as a fighter. I'm somewhat high on Benítez as a fighter. He really carries some big time power. He's a nasty fighter. He has that unorthodox southpaw type of striking style that does give guys problems. Now remember the Sadiq Yusuf fight, he was winning that fight up until the point that he got caught. So again, just touching upon his striking, and he does have some striking and can give guys problems there. Lost to Omar Morales, a guy that, he's a talented striker in his own right. Gets the knockout victory over Justin James, and then he loses his last fight to Billy Quarantillo. Billy Q is no joke. And so a little bit of a tough path that he's just recently went through. TJ Brown, on the other hand, very close to losing 3 in a row. A lot of people thought that Kai Kamaka should have got the nod there in that split decision victory for TJ Brown. Nevertheless, though, TJ Brown, he brought the fight there. You got to respect him for his performance. You got to respect both guys in that fight there. They both really, really went to war. And I'm not necessarily sold on TJ Brown as far as his talent goes, as far as him really hanging around in the UFC and really making a splash. He's a guy that's extremely tough. He has a wrestling background. If you're not really up to par with your wrestling, he can take you down and bully you up down there and win some rounds. It was his Dana White's Contender Series fight against Dylan Lockhart where he was really able to work him on the mat there, eventually getting that arm triangle choke. After that, though, 2 losses in the octagon against Jordan Griffin and Danny Chavez. The Danny Chavez fight, he was really picked apart in that fight. It really started to push Danny Chavez's stock up as good as he looked in that fight, and he wasn't really able to replicate that in any of his fights since. So that was a little bit of a red flag for TJ Brown there as far as his performance went. He's a tough dude, but I think that Gabriel can give him some problems on the feet. TJ Brown is willing to exchange in the feet. He's willing to brawl it out, and Benítez carries some serious power. A long-time AKA product. You see him over there with Kane. I think that this is almost a do-or-die fight for Benítez here. So I expect Benítez to be as motivated as he's ever been. Not that he wasn't motivated in the past, but I really, really expect him to come into this fight knowing that he needs a win. He cannot be one of his last 5 fights. I mean, you could probably expect him to be cut if he loses here and has only won 1 of his last 5 fights. So he's coming into this fight as the favorite. Let's see here. We'll take a look at the live line. We'll come back to the fight stats here in a second. Right now, we got Benítez right around a -200 favorite. So some people do have faith in him to handle business here. He will have a 2.5 reach disadvantage and a 1-inch height disadvantage. So TJ Brown, slightly the larger frame for the featherweight division here. I just have a feeling, though, Benítez will be able to keep this fight on the feet for the most part, and I see him whipping some nasty leg kicks and throwing that heavy left hand and maybe even work on the body, similarly to what he did in the Justin James fight. So I really got to edge Benítez here. as much as I would like to take a dog in a spot like this, it's just TJ Brown. I see holes when I break down the tape on him. It's really hard to get that Danny Chavez fight out of my mind. And I got to go with Gabriel Benítez to win this fight. And I wouldn't be shocked if there was a stoppage. We got a very interesting matchup here. Ramiz Brahimaj taking on Court McGee, the longtime veteran Court McGee, the former Ultimate Fighter champion winner, against a guy in Ramiz who has, 2 fights in the octagon as of right now. He is 1-1. A lot of experience over in the LFA organization. Ramiz Brahimaj is a guy fighting out of Fortis MMA who a lot of people were very high on as he made his UFC debut. A lot of people rave about his grappling skills. And then he comes into the UFC in his debut. He faces Max Griffin. And in that fight, I would have to say I don't remember a guy ever making his debut and having as much octagon jitters as he did. I think that it was very evident in that fight. I mean, I guess we will never know exactly what was going through his mind in that fight. But, I mean, from breaking down tape and watching the thousands of fights that I have, I really feel you could see that Ramiz was very hesitant. He didn't even attempt to get that fight down to the mat, not one time throughout that entire match. And that is his bread and butter. And if you were kind of wondering if you were correct about the assessment at the time, you see him, he makes he fights for his second time in the UFC against a guy in Sasha Palatnikov and wastes no time in getting the fight down to the mat and looks phenomenal in that matchup and gets the rear naked choke against Sasha there. And Sasha is no joke. You guys know I'm a big fan of Sasha's. Sasha actually, I would say out of all the guys I've interviewed and all the fighters I've got to know that fight in the UFC, I would say Sasha's, he's at the top, man. I'm a big fan of the dudes and I'm excited to see him perform this upcoming year. I'm expecting big things from him. I just want to say that now, man. I do keep in touch with Sasha and he's a really, really cool dude. But that wasn't his night. That wasn't his night against Ramiz. And Ramiz really did look good in that fight. And Ramiz has a lot of momentum going into this fight. You know, Court McGee is 37 years old now. You know, we're talking about the welterweight division. I mean, there's a couple guys that have been hanging around up in that age. And Court McGee is not your typical fighter, too. I know he's cut from a different cloth. He's a guy that you know, almost lost his life before getting into MMA. I mean, this is a guy that feels that he's destined to just, you know, be the warrior that he is and comes in with the phenomenal gas tank. He's not the most athletic or talented as far as his athleticism and skills go on the feet with the striking. The nickname is just so fitting. He's the Crusher, Court the Crusher McGee. This guy's going to press you. He's going to push you against the cage. He's going to clinch you up and try to smash you up like that. He's going to try to grind you out. And it's worked for him for years. So, you know, I want to make that clear. I'm a big fan of everything that Court McGee brings to the table. From everything I've seen, the guy is still absolutely in love with the sport of MMA and is still living in the gym. He's heavily involved with the wrestling scene, all that stuff. And, you know, this is going to be an interesting matchup, man. Ramiz is a very talented grappler, as we talked about as well. I don't expect this fight just to take place in the feet. I do definitely expect these guys to be clinched up a little bit and possibly this fight goes down to the mat one way or another. And right now, from what I've seen from Ramiz, this is a guy that should be a little bit of a step ahead. This guy should be, Ramiz should be a little bit quicker. He's a little bit younger. He's a little bit of he is a fresher fighter. And I think that we do have to take into consideration that Ramiz is only 29 years old with only 12 professional fights. The mileage isn't as much as compared to Court McGee with 30 professional fights. He's 37 years old. I mean, you could look at that two different ways as far as the experience advantage, but I look at this a little bit more so as an advantage for Ramiz. Now, his confidence has to be way higher than it was compared to when he was in his UFC debut and he had the stage fright. He knows that he can go out there and perform. We saw it in his last fight. Fortis MMA is no joke. I'm sure they really got him going for this fight here. And I am going to be siding with Ramiz here. I think that even if on the feet, I think that Ramiz will be a little bit quicker. He has a nice left hook. Needs to keep the volume up on the feet. At times, we saw it in the Max Griffin fight. He is a little hesitant. He needs to let his hands go because he actually has some decent hands as well. He has good boxing. The technique is there. I want to see him be a little bit more aggressive at times. But Court McGee will force that upon him because Court McGee will be in his face. And I think that Ramiz will perform okay and he'll execute. take a look at the live line right now. Ramiz Brahimaj is a slight underdog here. Court McGee, a very, very slight favorite. Basically a pick 'em. As I like to say, pick your poison in this fight. I'm going to side with Ramiz Brahimaj, coming off that spectacular victory, has the youth, and he has a lot in front of him here, man. He has a lot of potential in front of him. He needs to take his record in the UFC from a 500 record. He can become a winning percentage fighter and start to look to do big things in the octagon. And Court McGee, on the other hand, I do want to brush upon the fact, Court McGee is 2 of his last 5 losses to Carlos Condit, Sean Brady, and Diego Lima. I saw that Diego Lima fight live. It's a very close one. Court McGee should have got the nod. That was the first fight of the card. I remember just storming into the arena with a nice little buzz there. And then, the victory over Claudio Silva. Claudio is a guy that's up there in age too. Got to wonder what kind of condition and what type of energy Claudio was putting into that fight camp. Claudio is up there in age, and his career has been a little bit, hitting a crossroads there. But we'll see how this fight takes place. I'm going to side with Ramiz, and very excited to see how this fight takes place. You got, the younger fighter versus the longtime crafty veteran. Should be a good one. What's up, you guys? Real quick, just wanted to let you guys know, of course, I'm always open to working with any of you guys as far as my exclusive bets and picks go. I have a stable of people I'm working with right now. I'd love to add some more guys or girls to work with here. If you're interested, please reach out to me. You guys saw the results that I put in last year. If you guys would have followed what I was doing last year, depending on what unit system you were working with, we're talking about substantial profits here. If you were using a $500 per unit system, you almost profited $40,000 on the year. Even if you were as minuscule as $100 per unit system, you profited almost $8,000. So, I'm telling you guys, reach out to me about my pricing because it's more than worth it. It's not even a question. I'm documented. You can see all my results from last year, and I would love to work with any of you guys that are willing to work with me. Reach out to me. And you guys can shoot me an email, MMAFortuneteller@gmail.com. Shoot me a DM, MMAFortuneteller_, Twitter, the MMA Teller. Let me know you're interested and what my pricing is. I'll let you guys know what it is. And I'm telling you guys, starting things off right with this first card, we got some excellent opportunities. You're going to make your money back immediately, plus more. There's no question about it. We got some great spots, so don't hesitate. The Night Wolf, Jamie Pickett, taking on Joseph Ugly Man Holmes. It's a pretty interesting nickname there. I wonder how we got that. 7-1. Joseph Holmes is a guy that got a victory on Dana White's Contender Series, but did not get the contract. Goes out after that and takes on Jonathan Patti and gets the knockout. Jonathan Patti, former Dana White's Contender Series fighter as well. He's 6-5. But Patti is a guy that really has some crazy power on the feet. So we do know that Joseph can go in there with a guy that can take your head off and can weather the storm and get his own knockout. So that is something to note. Jamie Pickett does carry some big power himself. Jamie Pickett is a guy, he's 12-6. A guy that tends to drop the ball at times. One of his bigger fights of his career, he takes on Jordan Wright, and it's an absolute firestorm of a fight. He ends up getting finished there. He does have some holes in his striking game, but although I do want to note, he landed some big shots in that fight as well. But when it really came down to it, he was the guy that ended up hitting the mat there. Bounces back with the victory over Loreno Staropoli. Guy that really never lived up to the potential there. Pickett's a big dude. He has an 80-inch reach for 80-inch reach, which is typically a lot longer than his opponents. But here he's going to be taking on a guy in Joseph Holmes that has that same type of crazy frame and is actually even 2 inches bigger as Joseph Holmes. Joseph Holmes only 26 years old. A lot of room for growth as far as his skills go, where Jamie Pickett is definitely, in my opinion, a finished product. I somewhat believe that. Maybe not complete finished product, but I don't expect too much more growth from his game. If you've been breaking down his tape, I really do expect to see that same old Jamie Pickett, which is not really a bad thing. He's a mentally tough guy. He's a guy that's gone out there on the Dana White's Contender Series show, lost a couple times, and eventually, he finally got that victory. He's stuck to the script. He kept grinding it out, and he made his dreams come true. Joseph Holmes, this is a guy that he's 7-1. I know he's a very confident fighter. I'm not extremely crazy about his gas tank when you watch him fight. It's okay, but he's a little bit lackluster with his energy levels at times. But, he gets it done. He's a competent grappler. Seen some nice inside trip takedowns, and he could work the jiu-jitsu game. Saw him get a couple submissions there as well. And his Dana White's Contender Series fight, he was able to pull off a rear naked choke there, I believe in the 3rd round against Shante Barnes. I think that Joseph Holmes, he has potential to touch Jamie Pickett's chin and put him out. Jamie gives guys opportunities to do that. I mean, we saw Holmes just do that in his last fight against Pati. There's potential for that as well. Overall, I like Holmes a little bit more so here. You see him getting his brown belt there. So I mean, again, this guy is a guy that's competent on the mat. This isn't some guy that came into the Dana White's Contender Series show as just some big athlete, fighting in the heavyweight or light heavyweight division, and was able to storm right into an opportunity like that. And then he's just touching guys' chins, and he's a big dude. He's putting people out. This is a guy that's been putting in work on the mats. I believe this is his head coach or one of his really good friends. He's all throughout his pictures there, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he's grinding it out, man. He's putting time in on the mats. I expect a slight edge there based on what I've seen. And I'm going to go with the ugly man. I'm going to take the ugly man to win the fight here. And look who else he has in his corner, James Krause. And that's right. If you remember, James Krause was a little upset he didn't get the contract after the victory on the show. So, he's doing his thing. And I will side with him to win the fight here. He is going to be right around... Let's see here. He's going to be right around a minus 150 up to a minus 165 favorite as I'm recording this Monday morning. So people respecting Jamie Pickett as well, though. I thought this line would have maybe stormed a little higher. But at the moment, people do respect Pickett's power, I guess you would say, or his striking. It's there at times, but it's really not on the level. I don't know. But, I like Joseph Holmes to win the fight. First main card of 2022. Joanderson Brito taking on Bill Senor Perfecto Algeo. This should be a fun one here, taking place in the featherweight division. Joanderson Brito, if you're just learning about him or just new to seeing his face, he had a big-time performance on Dana White's Contender Series about 4 months ago. Took out Diego Lopez. Now, Diego Lopez, if you don't know about him as well, I am high on that kid. I think that kid is a very talented fighter. We will be seeing more from him down the line. Lopes, I think he might go by Lopes or Lopez, but he had a nice start to that fight. Brito weathered the storm and then really started to take over that fight. Showed to have skills in the wrestling department. Showed to have skills with as far as the power in his hands go. This guy's a very powerful, very powerful striker. And towards the beginning of his career, actually had a lot of first-round victories. And you might wonder a little bit about his cardio, but he has been battle tested a little bit over the last couple of years. Went to a decision in his last fight. A couple other fights too that went a little bit longer than some of his earlier fights. So this is a guy that, although he's very muscle bound and very quick twitch and explosive, I think that he has proven that he could hang in there for 3 rounds, and at least as much as a guy in Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo was a guy that was winning the Ricardo Lamas fight and really ended up gassing out, kind of. Maybe I should say gassing out, but started to fade, and Lamas was able to use his wrestling and take that 3rd round and win the fight there. So, I mean, it's not like we could say Bill Algeo is this marathon type style, has a marathon style physique, and he's going to be the fresher fighter in the later rounds. May be the case, but when you're really breaking down tape, it doesn't really look like that. I mean, Brito showed to have some good heart in that last fight, was continuously getting takedowns in the later rounds. Brito has nasty power in his hands. Bill Algeo, a very, very technical Muay Thai fighter, a very technical BJJ practitioner. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's a very well-rounded fighter. Something about him, though, man, he's been dropping the ball a little bit as of recently. We talked about the Lamas fight. And then in his last fight against Ricardo Ramos, that's a fight that I know he wanted to go out there and get, and he wasn't able to do that. The victory over Spike Carlisle, probably his best fight of his career, where he was able to handle business in the later rounds and was able to just be a step ahead of Carlisle there. Now, we take a look at the age. Bill Algeo, 32, compared to Brito's 26. So Brito, a little bit more of the green fighter, slightly less amount of professional experience, so maybe an advantage for Algeo as far as the experience goes. Algeo will have a height advantage and a 1.5-inch reach advantage. Nothing really noting there. Bill Algeo will try to work from the outside, in my opinion, try to work the leg kicks and the little step-in type kicks. Well, Brito will be looking to take his head off there. This was a little snippet from the Dana White's Contender Series fight that he had. I'm telling you, man, he was working some ground and pound. He was really looking for the kill. I don't like to say things like this, but it's just kind of something, I guess, worth saying. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm not saying by any means that Joanderson was on any type of performance-enhancing drugs, but he's a guy that really comes in with the physique. I've seen some pictures of him. He's jacked up. He's a very muscular, very muscular fighter. He comes in. He puts a lot of work into his weightlifting, I would believe so. And sometimes that could be a problem. Sometimes those types of guys tend to gas out. But like I said, haven't really seen that issue from him too much. So, but expect him to be the more explosive and powerful fighter in the early rounds. And maybe Algeo can try to drag him into deep waters. There's maybe potential for that. But again, like I said, when you break down the tape, that's not necessarily what you see. And there you go. Talk about Brito lifting the weights. This guy he's into lifting some heavy weights, man. But doesn't seem to be affecting him in the later rounds. So, and it definitely helps with his power and his explosiveness. We take a look at the live line. Brito right now is right around a -135 favorite. So it's a pretty close fight as far as the line goes. Bill Algeo to come back right around +110, +115. And again, Bill Algeo is a very, very technical Muay Thai fighter. Maybe he could, avoid those powerful shots, be a little bit tricky in there and could score some points. Don't be shocked if that happens. But I do like Brito. I saw enough from him in that Contender Series fight to know that he's an absolute pit bull. And I got to side with Brito. I've seen Algeo kind of drop the ball against fighters like that really push the pace on him and really look to impose their will. So I will side with Brito. Chase Sherman taking on Jake Collier. This is kind of an interesting matchup here. Chase Sherman, the vanilla gorilla guy that's left the octagon. He's fought over in BKFC. He's came back. As of recently, lost 2 fights in a row to Arlovsky and Parker Porter. I guess the UFC does like the fact that he typically brings the fight and ends up being an entertaining fight. So he's still hanging around. He likes to throw hands. Doesn't really come in that great of shape, to be honest. We saw that in his last fight. If you're able to bring him to those later rounds, he's a guy that is breathing pretty heavy and doesn't have that pop in his strikes. Now, Jake Collier, we all know the story with Jake. Jake is a guy who used to fight at the welterweight division. He used to be shredded. All of a sudden, he's a heavyweight fighter that carries around a lot of extra weight. But, I don't think we could all necessarily just poke fun at him. He made his UFC debut, or his heavyweight debut, against Tom Aspinall. Got knocked out within seconds. We all thought it was a complete joke. But bounced back against John Vellante and actually looked pretty good in that fight. And you saw that he still has the skills on the feet. He's a technical fighter. I know he's carrying around a lot of extra weight and he's not being professional. But, this is what he's trying to do right now. He's trying to be a heavyweight fighter. He doesn't mind carrying that weight. Lost to Carlos Felipe in his last fight. That was actually a competitive fight as well. And Felipe is a very talented Brazilian boxer. Chase Sherman, we talked about those 2 losses that he had. In my opinion, Chase Sherman has suspect striking defense. He's easily he's hittable. He's known to be tagged up on the feet. We've seen Sherman go in there and lay some dudes out. But, Ike Villanueva is a guy that's not a UFC caliber fighter. As we remember, I faded Ike in his last UFC fight, made some easy money. And that's what I was trying to warn all you guys. He's not a UFC caliber fighter. And if you take a look at a lot of the guys that he's fought, there's not really any notable victories there on Chase Sherman's record. I believe Chase Sherman unfollowed me on IG. Maybe he didn't like that I didn't pick him for a fight or something. I know he used to follow me. I messaged him before. I know he doesn't follow me anymore. But that's not why I'm not picking him here. I'm not picking him because Jake Collier has shown a little bit more to me on the feet. And believe it or not, I think that Collier will have the better cardio in this fight. I know that might be hard to believe with all that excess weight that he carries. And Sherman is training over at Sanford MMA. You guys know I'm very high in that gym. But that's not going to be enough for me to side with Sherman here. I like Collier to win this fight. I think that Collier will land more significantly and more so. And I think that Collier will be the fresher fighter in the later rounds. I expect Collier to land more shots in the third round if it goes there. And that's who I'm going to pick here. As far as the frames go, too, I mean, I talked about all that excess weight that Collier has put on over the years. But let's not get it twisted. He is 6'3", has a 78.5-inch reach. I mean, he has a frame on him. It's not like he's some short, stocky guy that threw on all this weight. I mean, he is a big boy. He has fit in the heavyweight division as of now. He's 1-3. Excuse me, 1-2. Probably gets this fight done, and he's 2-2 in the heavyweight division. So, just saying. I will side with Jay Collier here. And with the live line, we have a slight lean on Collier, right around a -130. It's almost a pick'em type of fight. So for some reason, people still respecting Sherman's skill set. I don't know, man. Sherman is very stiff with his striking. His head is up there on a pedestal. He has this awkward type of striking style where he's throwing power shots, but the head is right there, and it's there to be tagged up. And Collier has some boxing there, so don't be surprised if Collier lands a heavy shot on him. I like Collier to win the fight. Brandon Royval taking on Rogério Bontorin. I'm a big fan of this guy, Brandon Royval. This guy is just nonstop action, as I said. He's a very, very fun fighter to watch perform. I don't think there's another fighter that goes out there looking to take you out as much as Royval does. You guys will see it. I'm telling you, if you're not familiar with him, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are, but if you're not, watch how he performs in this fight. He's going to go out there and he's going to fight his opponent as if he just came across his opponent after he found out that his opponent punched his mom in the face. I mean, he goes out there like he's looking to kill you. Like he just finally found you after looking for you for a week. You know, you did something to one of his family members and he's going out there to kill you. I mean, that's really his fighting style. I mean, the guy is just, you take him down, he's on his back, he's going nonstop, hammer fisting you, trying to reverse you. And not only is he so aggressive, he actually has some true skills. I mean, he is a jiu-jitsu whiz. He has some nasty jiu-jitsu. One thing I would maybe like to see from him, maybe work a little bit on his physical abilities, maybe start pumping a little bit of iron, put a little bit more muscle mass. We've seen him kind of controlled a little bit but by some guys that are a little bit stronger than him, a little bit more powerful. But keep in mind now, his two losses. Look at his last two losses. Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja. Two top fighters in the division. Now, I expect Brandon Royval, like I said, to be the much more active fighter in this fight. Rogério Bontorin is a guy that's a little bit more methodical with his approach. He's a guy he's a well-rounded fighter as well, but he's a little bit more patient. I expect Bontorin to maybe try to take his time, maybe set up a takedown, try to control Royval down on the mat. But that's going to be hard to do. Royval will be going crazy there in the mat. And judges don't typically lean towards fighters on their back regardless. But I could almost see Royval being the guy that's out-voluming him off his back 2-1 or 3-1. And sometimes the judges like that. I mean, when it comes to a guy like Royval, not a lot of people can do what he does. But I'm talking about extreme activity off the back, elbows, everything. And also be careful it doesn't set up a submission on you down there as well. On the feet, extremely unorthodox, spinning attacks, all that coming at you. Rogério Bontorin coming off that win over Matt Schnell. Losses to Kai Kara France and Ray Borg before that. And then the Julian Paiva fight. That fight was actually just getting going before Paiva had that cut where they had stopped the fight. So we don't even really know how that fight would have played out. Although I did make some money on that fight with Bontorin, but I was happy to take it. Bontorin only 29 years old. Both fighters 29. Royval is going to be 4 inches taller with a 3.5 inch reach advantage. The more rangy guy here. Bontorin maybe a little bit more powerful, a little bit more strong in the clinch in those wrestling situations. Like I said, we've seen that from Royval a little bit at times, and maybe that's one thing he can work on. But the diversity of his attacks, it's just going to give anybody problems in there. And let's not also forget that loss that he took against Brandon Moreno. I believe his shoulder popped out of the socket. So, that fight was another fight that was just getting going. And yes, Moreno looked very good in that fight as well. But that fight was not necessarily over at all. So, I mean, that's a fight that we could actually see down the line again. So, non-stop action coming from Royval. I'm going to side with Royval here. I like Brandon Royval, and he's one of my favorite fighters to watch, like I said, in the game. So, he's quickly becoming one of my favorites. He's right around a -160 to a -170 favorite. The activity, the diversity should be enough to get it done. If Rogério Bontorin gets this fight done, he's very cerebral, methodical, sets up a takedown, gets a lot of control time. And Bontorin is a guy that's technical on the feet as well, just doesn't put as much volume there. His strikes will be more, a little bit more, a little bit more basic. You're going to see the basic leg kicks, the basic boxing attacks. He's going to be trying to set up a clinch, takedown. Well, Royval will be throwing the kitchen sink at you. I will side with Brandon Royval here. We got a rematch of Katlyn Chookagian taking on Jennifer Maia. Now, Katlyn Chookagian did win the first time around. She was able to really up the volume in that fight. She outvolumed Jennifer Maia and was able to win that decision. Now, that's something that Katlyn Chookagian has been known to do in her fights. I mean, she really puts a high volume on the feet out there. She's making the grunts, the yells. The judges like that. I've slowly have came around on Katlyn. I really respect her game right now. She's going out there. She's getting the job done a lot more than she's not. You take a look at some of her losses. Losses to Valentina Shevchenko, Jessica Andrade. I mean, we're talking about the cream of the crop here. She's 16-4 as a professional. She's training with the best of them. I mean, you see her over here with Gregor Gillespie. I mean, you want to talk about getting in some wrestling training. You're talking about one of the best wrestlers in MMA, which is it's really a good thing for her because her striking is already very, very talented as well. You mix that with the wrestling. I know she's put in a lot of work with Mark Henry, I believe, with her boxing and her overall striking. She has good kicks. She's rangy. And that's going to be a big factor in this fight. The 4-inch reach advantage, the 5-inch height advantage. Remember now, people think you only want to look at the reach there, but keep in mind with the height of these opponents too, because when it comes to the kicks, the taller opponent typically is going to have longer legs and be able to strike from the outside more so, not just with the hands, but can use different types of attacks, knees, kicks. And that's something that Chookagian does very well. And like I said, she'll be shouting about it the entire time. And it's just going to sound like she's the one winning all those type of exchanges. Now, Jennifer Maia, she does have some good power in her hands. And if she's able to close the distance in this fight, she can make some things happen there. Jennifer Maia is a girl, it's kind of hard to really sleep on her. And this is a girl that worked her way up to a title match against Valentina Shevchenko, and probably gave Valentina Shevchenko more of a challenge than any fighter that we've ever seen. So you have to respect that. She was able to use her wrestling and her jiu-jitsu to win some rounds. And I am a fan of Jennifer Maia. I've been watching her since the Invicta days, and she's no joke. She's absolutely no joke. She's 33. Probably right in the prime of her career. Both these girls, almost exactly the same age here. So, this is a big fight for the division. But we saw how this fight took place the last time. Of course, things can change. But, Maia is the girl that's really going to have made some significant changes and really do something different in this fight. Because if they do that same type of fight on the feet, the tit for tat type fight, Chookagian is the girl that's going to be getting her hand raised, in my opinion. Maia's going to have to sneak in some takedowns, work some jiu-jitsu, get on the inside, make things dirty. And, look at this. Chookagian is a career mixed martial artist. And, I don't say that joking around. I mean, this could be some neighborhood karate type thing, but this is a girl that's been around the fight game. I mean, it's not every girl that you see with the yellow belt strapped up. And she said she's always been a big uppercut girl. So, you got to respect it, though. You got to respect it. And Chookagian is a true athlete. If she wasn't an MMA fighter, this is a girl I could see being, a professional soccer player, a softball player, maybe, something like that, or a tennis player. I mean, she's a real athlete. There's no question about that. She has a very nice frame for the division, 5'9", and I got to side with Chookagian here. I like Chookagian to win this fight once again, and she could try to work her way to a potential title fight, in the near future as well. There'll be 3 fights in a row, and we'll see what's next for Chookagian after this fight. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Again, Maia is no joke. I want to make that clear. Take a look at the live line on this fight. And Chookagian's right around a minus 175 favorite, as high as a minus 180, 185. And, you know, see if I can pull something up real quick here. I wanted to see the last time that they fought, Chookagian was right around, opened up at a minus 140. She closed right around a minus 164. So right now, you know, it's right around that same range. So even after she got the victory, that's something definitely worth noting, that, you know, people aren't like, oh, this is just a gimme, this is a freebie. Because people do respect Maia's game. But I like Chookagian to win the fight. I do. Hey, you guys, if you're looking for a new sports book to kick things off for the new year, you're looking to make some good money betting on MMA, betting on sports, Bovada.lv is without a doubt the best online sports book that's out there. I truly believe that. You know, I've talked to you guys about some other sports books, and they don't compare. Even as of recently, I was dabbling with a couple other ones, and I was actually very, very annoyed with some of the little catches and the tricks that some of these other sports books have. And you guys will be seeing some full videos of me talking about those details over on my Sports Betting Weekly channel. But I'm telling you guys, check out Bovada.lv. Reach out to me so I can give you my referral link. And we'll both get a bonus as you sign up, and I'll give you some free bets as well. You guys will get some free picks from me, and I'm telling you, the bonuses are unmatchable. Some of these other websites, they give you a bonus. It's a fake bonus. They say they're going to give you a 100% bonus or whatnot, but the catch is they give you that money. It's called free play money, and then you have to make a wager with that money, and you only get the winnings back, and you lose the money that you wagered. With Bovada.lv, if they give you bonuses, which they do all the time, when you make the wager with that money, you get to keep the money that you wagered plus the winnings. I'm telling you, they do you right here. And if you have any more questions on how it all works, reach out to me. I'll give you all the details why Bovada.lv is the best sportsbook. I'm telling you guys right now, there's numerous reasons why. Reach out to me. Let's get you signed up. Help me get that referral as well, and this way I can take care of you guys with any information you need, and giving you free plays and all that stuff. You know, we'll both watch each other's backs here, as they like to say. But we'll keep our clothes on, and, you know, we'll make sure it doesn't get awkward. All right, guys, reach out to me. Let's go. First main event of 2022. Got an exciting fight here. Kalvin Kattar taking on Giga Chikadze. Keep in mind now, Kalvin Kattar, he kicked things off for the year 2021. If you guys remember, he was the main event against Max Holloway. So a very interesting story here. You know, he has the long layoff after losing that fight to kick things off of last year, and now he can try to start things for the year 2022 in a different manner. And you guys know he was absolutely beat down in that fight. So a lot of emotions, a lot of heavy weight on his shoulders here going into this fight against a guy in Giga who's absolutely on fire. I mean, he's coming into this fight with as much momentum as just about anybody in the UFC right now. So this is a big fight for Kalvin. Let's not make a mistake here, man. This is a very, very big fight for him. How is he going to perform? And, you know, and we got to talk about what happened to him in that fight against Max Holloway. In that fight, I would say I have that as possibly a top 5 fight where a fighter took damage, took severe damage. You know, again, now when fighters go out there and they get knocked out quickly, it's not as bad as a fighter being butchered and beaten down for multiple rounds, 5 rounds, especially in a main event or a championship type fight. I put this fight here, I put that up there with fights like Cain Velasquez and JDS, when Velasquez just beat him down that entire fight. He didn't knock him out, but just was beating the crap out of JDS. You know, on the feet, against the cage, all that. Fights like Rick Glenn against when Rick Glenn took on Gavin Tucker. You know, that was a fight that, you know, Rick Glenn couldn't put him out, but he wobbled him, hurt him bad, and then was able to do whatever he wanted that entire fight. And it was right in that crossroads where the referee couldn't stop the fight, and the fighters, they take an extreme amount of damage. I mean, I put this fight here, the Max Holloway versus Kalvin Kattar fight, up there with those. A lot of people thought that this fight should have been stopped, and I have no argument with you there if you felt that. So this is interesting to see. How is Kattar going to bounce back in this fight? I want to say this. Everybody's extremely high on Giga. I mean, the guy is just as talented of a striker as anybody in the UFC right now. He's going out there. He's taking out guys like Edson Barbosa on the feet, Cub Swanson. You know, he's just absolutely destroying these fighters as well. The Jamie Simmons knockout Again, Jamie Simmons is not a big name, but still what he did to him was very impressive. Can we not forget what Calvin Kattar brings to the table? I understand that he just lost to Holloway. First off, in that loss, he showed to have extreme heart and extreme cardio, all that. The guy wasn't going anywhere. He's as tough as it comes. But let's not forget the skills that Kattar has as well. Calvin Kattar is a nasty boxer, a nasty striker on the feet. Doesn't really implement the kicks as much as other guys. He likes to use his hands and his elbows. He really likes to use his arms. I think that Giga is a much more of a diverse striker, but Kalvin is no joke. And if you guys forgot, victories over Dan Ige, the Jeremy Stevens knockout, the Ricardo Lamas knockout, the knockout over Shane Burgos, excellent knockout there in the 3rd round. At the time, I think they were both undefeated, if I remember correctly. But Kalvin is nasty on the feet, and I didn't forget what he brings to the table. So you don't want to go into this fight just thinking that, oh, Calvin's washed up because he got beat down by Max Holloway, one of the greatest strikers to ever do it. So let's just get that clear here real quick. Giga will have a 2-inch reach advantage. He'll be an inch taller. Giga is a guy, like I said, he's going to be looking to use his kicks much more than Kattar. Kattar, he could do it all, but he does favor his boxing and his elbows. I mean, he looks to piece you up and take you out with his hands. Giga Chikadze has one of the nastiest body kicks that I've ever seen in the MMA game. Of course, the fighting with the Georgian descent. Shout out to all my Georgian people out there. Already got a couple messages from you guys. You guys know I always have a great deal of respect for what the Georgian people and the Georgian fighters bring to the table. Extremely tough people. And Giga, without a doubt, is one of those types of fighters. But Calvin Kattar, let's not sleep on his toughness, like I said as well, man. This guy is, he's an American. He's a real example of a tough American guy fighting out of Massachusetts from the Northeast. This guy is a real worker, man. This guy is a guy that supposedly actually comes from money. I mean, this guy, he doesn't do this to even make money. I mean, everyone talks about young, hungry fighters that are trying to make money and this and that. Well, Calvin Kattar is a guy that does this from the love of the game, and just because he's built like that. It's the cloth that he's cut from. This guy is just a warrior. I'm very, very excited to see how the striking exchanges take place. You see his training partner here, Rob Font. You guys know I'm very high on him as well. One of the best duos in the game, the New England Cartel. And this is just a great fight here. I do expect this fight to take place on the feet. I think that Giga, with his footwork and whatnot, will be able to keep it there. Kalvin loves it to stand and trade as well. I think this fight takes place in the feet, and whoever wins those striking exchanges is going to be the guy that wins this fight. And I think you guys know which way I'm going right now. You guys know I've been very high on Giga. He's been bringing the money in. The way that he turned things up in the 3rd round against Edson Barbosa was very impressive. Got that knockout there in the 3rd. Training at a King's MMA. He's 33 years old, but do keep in mind, 16 professional fights. He had a lot of kickboxing bouts beforehand. He's really starting to catch his groove, and he's starting to become fully comfortable as a mixed martial artist. I love the leg kicks. I love everything he does with the legs. His hands, a little bit more stiff. It's more of like a kickboxing type style with his hands. Calvin has that natural boxing abilities, more fluid, the head movements there. So if Giga can't keep that distance and he lets Calvin come in on him, don't be surprised if Calvin hits him with some nice shots with the hands and ends up maybe even getting a knockout there. Anything can happen in this fight, I'm telling you guys. But with that all said, like I said, I think you guys probably know which way I'm going here. I got to lean, and we're not going to have a live line for some reason on this fight here, but I am going to lean Giga Chikadze, who is right around a minus 250 favorite right now. And for whatever reason, I don't know why they're not really showing these odds for this fight, but it is my sportsbook right now. Giga is a minus 250. Kalvin is right around a 2-1 underdog, plus 200. So maybe you find some value there, taking Kalvin in a spot like that. But I just think that Giga gets this fight done. I think he handles business. And I think that Giga is going to be pushing his way towards the top of this division, fighting for the belt and whatnot. I think he has that type of ability. And I am high on the skill set that he brings to the table. The striking is just, it's light years ahead of a lot of guys. But Kalvin, it's not light years ahead of Kalvin. Kalvin can do his thing on the feet too. It's going to be an awesome fight. I'm very excited to see how it takes place. Giga Chikadze is my main event pick there. All right, guys. Now, what else could we talk about, man? I guess we gotta close down the show. You guys know I like to give you some parting words. It's been a while since I've been able to do one of these, so I'm excited. And what better message to send than, we're starting a new year, 2022. Make this your year. I know everybody says that every year. Make this your year, though. Whatever goals you guys got, let's start to get them going. Let's start to grind things out. I know that this is my year here, 2022, with the MMA Fortune Teller brand. I'm going to be making a very strong push. As I said, I've been slacking a little bit on pushing my brand and my business over here. So I'm going to be stepping it up with my marketing and all that. So you should expect to see some major numbers of growth with my channel, my Instagram and all that. And I appreciate every single one of you guys with the support and help that you give me to make that happen. Subscribing, following, sharing with your friends, and just, helping me get exposure. So I appreciate every single one of you guys. But whatever you guys got going on too, whatever projects you're working on, whatever business things you guys are working on, get on the grind. If coffee's your thing, man, get up, get that coffee in you, get on the grind, get things going. Have a notepad, write down your goals for the day, your goals for the week, get them done. That's something that I've been slacking on a little bit this past year, and I'm going to be stepping it up here. I got a big year ahead. I'm so excited to show you guys what this year has to come. Can't wait for you guys to see me in the new studio. It's going to be some time. I'm working on getting the location. Still got to have everything set up, but you guys will see me in a nice studio with a whole different background, a whole different types of camera angles. I can't wait to finally have that going. And I can't wait to start doing the fighter interviews again and all that stuff, and have the live streams going again. The live streams are coming. So I'm excited for all that. So please, you guys, hit that like button, subscribe, give me all that support, man. Please, guys, I appreciate you. And on that note, signing out, Teller. The MMA Fortune Teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.